Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for firing it up. We've got the unauthorized chat going. Audio, video is good. We have the DLive chat going, and so let's roll. Now, there's a bit of a discussion on Social Galactic that I thought was interesting. And now, just to keep in mind, I am not Owen Benjamin's keeper. I am not the Owen police. I never have been. I never will be. I'm not concerned in the slightest when people criticize Owen. Owen says plenty of things that demand criticism. Everybody isn't right all the time. I'm not right all the time. Nobody is. And congratulations to IB Ogre and Sunlight, both of whom are saying this is the first stream they've caught live. So welcome to the Darkstream, and good to see that you've already figured out the commenting system. But it's not about Owen, it's about the nature of the criticism that I want to address. A lot of people, especially it seems millennials, maybe not as, I don't think as much Zoomers, but definitely with the millennials, they really seem to have this idea that if you're not being soft, if you're not being kind, if you're not being gentle, then you're not helping a person. And first of all, the fact of the matter is that this isn't true. Let me tell you a little story. Some of you will have heard it before, but it's applicable, so I think it's useful. Now, as you may know, I competed in track at a high level. I was a conference champion in high school, finished third in the Minneapolis region that year, competed in NCAA Division I. We ran against Penn State, we ran against Pitt, Syracuse, East Carolina, which doesn't sound that impressive. We didn't think it was impressive until we learned that the very much not matching red, white, and blue tights that one of the guys was wearing were U.S. national team tights. He actually competed in the Olympics after that. Needless to say, he smoked everybody. But we had a coach who was fairly intense. And we had a good team. We won the East Coast Conference indoor and outdoor championships both years that I ran. And it was a competitive team, and both within the team and against the other colleges we ran against and so forth. But our coach was pretty tough. And we used to dread Tuesdays, which were speed days, because a speed day meant that there was about a 50% chance that you were going to end up throwing up at some point. Maybe that's a bit much. Let's say more like a 30% chance for anybody. I tended to throw up more than most for whatever reason. But we always knew it was going to be a really bad day in the winter when we would train in the indoor track, because at the D1 level you train every day. Not on weekends, but you train 5 days a week, and there's no off season, no such thing. And so in the winter we'd go in and we'd see these trash cans lined up strategically, about 6 of them around the 200-meter track. you could see everybody's face when they would walk in, because we had what we called the sprinter, jumper, hurdler group. The track teams are pretty big. They divide up into different sections for their training because they have to train differently. So, for the basic stuff, the sprinter, jumper, hurdler group would always be together. Warm up, stretching, and speed, because everybody in that group had to do speed. And you'd see people walk in and their faces would just drop because you knew that within 45 minutes you were going to be bent over one of those trash cans, lined with plastic, throwing up in it. And the reason was because you were being pushed beyond your limits. Now, what's really interesting is the different way that men and women are motivated. And what our coach realized pretty quickly is that when he would yell at both the men and the women, that the men would do well. The men would get angry and they would work harder. But the women, when they were yelled at, they would quit. I mean, they wouldn't quit, they wouldn't stop and walk off, but their performance went down. And, for whatever reason, probably something to do with the Alpha Sigma conflict, the coach used to yell at me a lot. So much so, in fact, that one of my younger teammates, when I was a sophomore, one of my freshman teammates came up and told me that on the second day she had told the coach, please don't yell at me like you yell at that Vox guy, because I can't take it and I'll have to quit the team. And apparently he said, oh, don't worry about it. I only yell at him because that's the only way I can get him to pay any attention. And it's probably true. I was a bit of a jackass in college. But we'd go around the track, and you'd have to, basically on a speed day, a typical speed day, there are varieties. But on a typical speed day, you would have to run a 200, then you'd walk 100, jog 100, and that would bring you all the way around the 200-meter track, and then you take off again right away. And just to put it in perspective, we would normally be expected to run 27-second 200s. So it wasn't like flat out, not full speed, but it's pretty quick. Chad Chadson says, what was your 40? I have no idea. Nobody in track runs the 40. That's like a weird football training camp related thing. My fastest 100 time was 10.6. Anyhow, when you run around the track, so you're just going and going and going. I think the most that we ever had to do, the absolute worst, was we were getting punished for something and we ended up doing it like 15 times. That was brutal. The last person started throwing up. The longest holdout made it until 8. So yeah, it was pretty bad. But the thing is that he thought, well, okay, maybe I'm being too hard on them. Maybe I need to, clearly I'm yelling at everybody and the girls' performance is dropping off. I need to, try positive feedback, positive reinforcement. And so he started praising us. So we would run by and he'd be like, good job, guys. You're looking great. Everybody's, good form. You're looking strong. Keep it up. So the girls would, you could just see them infused with this positive energy. And you could almost see them thinking, wow, he thinks I'm doing well. Well, he hasn't seen anything yet. I can do even better. And, they would they would improve their performance. They'd run harder. They'd push even further past their limits. It didn't work that way with the men at all. I mean, literally to a man, without anybody saying anything. The minute he started praising us, we started running like 2-3 seconds off the pace, off the time that he wanted us to run. It seems kind of strange these days because I couldn't possibly do it now, but back then when we were training all the time, you could very, very easily distinguish between, okay, I'm going to run a 24, I'm going to run a 28, and so he was just so puzzled because here the girls are hitting their targets and even exceeding their targets, and the guys are like 2-3 seconds off the pace. And so it led to this comical situation that we ended up becoming accustomed to because the men and the women would run separate speed workouts, but on the same track at the same time. So basically, everything's kind of, it was timed so that, the guys take off first, and then the girls go in, and it worked out that you'd have the two groups on the track at the same time. But so what you'd have is a situation where the guys would be coming past the coach, and he would be shouting at us, verbally abusing at us, calling us, pussies and useless and lazy and all this stuff. And the guys would get angry and run harder. And, no sooner are we past than the girls come past, and you could hear him going, "Doing great, ladies. Keep it up. You're looking strong. Well done. I'm so happy with you." And they would run hard. The point is that men have a very different psychology than women. Women tend to need positive feedback. They need that kindness. They need that confidence, right? And men need to be inspired. And there's two ways to inspire a man. One is to provide a positive example. Give him something to look up to try to achieve. When I was doing martial arts, what I craved more than anything in the dojo was the respect of the top fighters. I didn't care about praise. I didn't care about what people watching thought. I didn't care about people thinking I was good at this, or I wasn't even concerned about not getting hurt. There's one guy in particular, his name was Scott. He was just a fearsome fighter, absolutely fearsome. And it was really hard the first year to spar with him because you would get hurt. You knew you were going to get knocked down. You knew he wasn't going to hold back. You knew he wasn't going to take it easy on you. But that was an aspirational inspiration. I wanted to be as good a fighter as he was. Now I never was. I never got to his level. But I did get to the point where I could fight fairly evenly with him. He was always better. He would usually beat me, but I got to the point where I could beat him sometimes. And that when you get to that point where you just get that, just that little nod of respect, that look of respect in the opponent's eyes. You know, for an athlete and for a man, there's no higher praise. You know, no words at all. That's one form of the aspirational is one form of inspiration. The other form of inspiration is basically the whip. You know, doesn't matter whether it's verbal, doesn't matter whether it's a literal physical kick in the ass, but that's what a lot of men need. And praising a man, trying to lift him up with love and kindness, generally isn't going to work because it's a fundamentally female method of motivation. I mean, I get the idea that, you know, there's that phrase about not kicking a man when he's down. But that's a different sort of thing. You know, we're not talking about something that is motivated by cruelty, motivated by sadism, motivated by a sense of superiority. What we're talking about here is a lot of times motivation requires a kick in the ass. You know, a pat on the head isn't going to do a boxer any good. You know, telling him, I believe in you, isn't really going to help when somebody is at that point of breaking where they're not sure that they can continue. You know, what a man needs is anger. What a man needs is that fire that gets him up off his stool and back into the ring. You know, Hollywood, you know, as much as Hollywood mutilates and gets everything masculine backward and portrays it incorrectly and often falsely, but they do show there is a little bit of truth in it when they have the Rocky who's being beaten and defeated, and then he digs down inside himself, and you know, they always show it like with a facial expression, but that's a real thing. You know, you can see quit on a man's face. You can see quit in a man's eyes. You know, I don't know if many of you have been involved in some sort of physical sport, but it doesn't matter whether it's football or whether it's a martial art like boxing or you know, jiu-jitsu or taekwondo. You know, you can see when when men have quit. It used to drive me crazy. You know, when the Italians, playing soccer with the Italians, you know, the nature of Italian soccer is very defensive, and there's not a lot of goals scored. And you know, sometimes you would see a team get scored on, and there's like 70 minutes left in the game, and they're all walking around with their heads down. It was so frustrating because when you would see a team get to that point, they almost never recovered. They almost never came back. You know, and Exterminator Bear says, saw it on Tom Brady's face during the second Seahawks Super Bowl in 2 years, and he was defeated until the interception, then he came alive. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're being beaten, literally, and just for whatever reason, something happens that flips a switch. And it's not usually that whole Hollywood always makes it something like, the guy looks in the stands and sees somebody hitting on his girlfriend or something. Um, or in the Hollywood portrayal of it is always false because it's always um, something external. Like, and then he thought of his little boy. I mean, it's never anything like that. In my opinion, it tends to be something that is more negative. Like, I am, I, I cannot take any more of this shit. You know, I'm not going to hold back anymore. And the inspirational kiss, yeah, that is the most gamma thing in the universe. You know, I can't do it, but oh, the girl that I'm obsessed with actually likes me. Now I can succeed. I mean, it's it's so nonsense. I mean, I can honestly say I've competed in a lot of sports. I've won a lot of races, games, championships. Um, at no point have I ever given even a moment's thought to any woman ever. you know, it's just a, it's just a, it's not relevant. You know, um, I mean, it's always nice to afterwards, you know, bask in the whole conquering hero whatever thing. That's great. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, you know, motivation, core motivation. And that's always internal. Exterminator Bear has another good point. He says, how many decades of loser boys thought it was real because of movies and TVs displaying it? Country music isn't any better. Well, I wouldn't know about the country music, but yeah, I think that's where a lot of this confusion comes in. I think that movies in particular have a tendency to teach young men the wrong way. You know, but what in Ireland, I don't know if what's going on is organic or whether it's just another gatekeeping operation where they're trying to, you know, harness and corral the righteous anger of the young Irish men who want to defend their country and defend their nation. I don't know. But what I can say is that if Ireland is going to be saved, it is going to be saved by the anger and by the motivation and by the fire inside. You know, Sam says usually it's just getting tired of being yelled at or beaten. Yeah, I think that's part of it. And the Irish people, the American people, the British people, the German people, the Swiss people, the Italian people, they are all being beaten and abused and yelled at constantly. And they're not going to get at it. They're not going to get out of it by people saying, I know you've had it hard. I know it's been difficult. But, I believe in you. That's not going to solve anything. That's not going to change anything. What's going to change things is when people decide, I cannot continue like this. I am not going to continue like this. Now maybe it's going to start changing soon. I think it probably will. But we'll just have to see. I wish mothers knew not to reinforce bad advice, but so many fail to hear their thumb. Ask your father is a better response. Yeah, more or less. Um, Simplicius has another Substack, Dark Futura. You may be aware. Thought I mentioned. I I think that I'm vaguely aware of it. I don't know that I've actually ever read it directly. I usually follow his Russian-Ukrainian war stuff, which is excellent. You know, he's definitely the best writer on the subject. But yeah, I think I'll definitely check that out. Thank you. Razor Force Rich said they also need to see that there's a hope of victory. In my opinion, I disagree. I totally disagree because hope is something that has to arrive internally. You know, I mean, think that's why faith is so important. Irrational faith. You know, remember, hope is a virtue. You know, faith, hope, and love. But how do you install love or hope or faith in anyone? You don't. It's something that's inside you. And hope is just like confidence. It comes with effort and achievement. You know, you don't get confident by somebody telling you, you know, well, that's not quite true. There are some forms of confidence that come from other people, like especially social sexual related confidence. Does come from other people's reactions to you. But quotidian confidence, the kind of confidence that you just have naturally within you, is something that only comes over time through your accomplishment. You know, when you see those you know, arrogant sprinters, you know, walking out before the race, and you know, of all the athletes in the world, there's really, you know, other than maybe some of the fighters, boxers and stuff, but you know, they're among the most arrogant athletes in all of sports. And the reason is because from the time that they were very, very young, they were just faster than everybody. You know? And that kind of confidence is literally unshakable. Because, you know, if confidence gets built up over time, reinforced and reinforced and reinforced, then it can't be shaken. Sam says that's because sprinting elitism is inborn. It's probably true. I mean, it's always funny to me when people theorize that, you know, my confidence is either posed based on the fact that my family was wealthy at one point in time, or because I'm intelligent. And to me, that was always just bizarre because number one, it's not posed, it's not fake. Number two, I mean, if you know, I understand that some people do have a degree of innate superiority because their parents are wealthy, but my parents were not wealthy when I was growing up. You know, it has to be stuff in your formative years, and it also depends, of course, on how your parents raise you. And then, as far as intelligence goes, have you ever met any intelligent people? As a general rule, the more intelligent people that are, the more insecure they are. You know, you watch a show like Silicon Valley or something, and the genuine techno geniuses you know, they can't even talk to normal people. You know, they can't even look people in the eye. So, you know, it for for people that understand these things, you know, when they find out that I was an elite athlete in my youth, then they're like, oh, okay. You know, I was having a conversation with a guy who uh, also has a very observably unshakable self-confidence, and he's been very successful. And it was kind of hilarious because uh, we were having a conversation a few weeks ago, and we discovered that we were both D1 sprinters. And it was kind of funny because we couldn't really figure out why we were hitting it off so well. Um, Especially when there were some reasons for us to not get along at all. But, you know, it was once we realized that, it was like, okay, now we get it, you know. Um, Sam says, being elite in some physical realm from an early age is something that's just unshakable. Yeah, well, it is kind of crazy how, you know, I mean, we all get it when you've got the guys who are big and strong, you know, your sort of classic alphas. We understand why they have that confidence. Why wouldn't they, you know? But it's true. It's not just physical size. It's not just physical strength. It's also speed, you know, and um, and does it make any sense? Is it justifiable? Of course not. But that doesn't make it any less real. You know, that doesn't change anything. But here's the thing, and here's the beautiful thing, is that you can still find and develop a level of confidence that is extremely strong on the basis of your experiences. You know, even if you are uh, a scrawny little programmer who can't talk to a girl or uh, look another human being in the face and in the eyes, you know, you can still develop confidence by building on your victories. You build on the small victories. And yeah, you know, you're never going to walk into the room like Napoleon and have everyone turn to you and, you know, hang on your every word. And to talk about, you know, talk about another gamma thing, you know, the way that they all dream of saying just the right thing at just the right time, and it'll completely transform the way that everybody looks at, you know, the whole like, and then I said this and then everyone clapped. I mean, that's so sad, not because of course it never ever happened, but the idea that that is a great victory. It's not. Tomorrow, nobody will remember a single word you said. Austin points out that lifting weights does a lot for confidence. It does. Because all of those victories over the weights add up. You know, when you look at a weight that you couldn't even lift before, and now you know beyond any shadow of a doubt that you can throw it up 10 times now, how can that not have a positive effect on your confidence? I mean, if there's one thing that would improve every single young man's life, it's hit the weights 3 times a week. Do not miss it. You know, unless you're actually, you know, sick, literally physically sick, and you should be in bed sleeping, you got to hit those weights because the iron doesn't lie. You can't talk your way around it. You can't rationalize your way around it. It either is or it isn't. Lifting weights is actually tough, tough for us old guys, you know, because we still think in our head that we can do what we used to do. And the reality is we shouldn't even be trying to do what we used to do, because the older you are, the more important it is to just do something and don't get hurt. It's way too easy to get hurt. You know. I kind of regret bringing up the subject today because I meant to hit the weights today, and I got a phone call, and then I got distracted, and then I had to go do this and I had to go do that, and I never got around to it. So tomorrow we're hitting the weights. I walked an extra block today. You know, that's great. Everybody's got to start somewhere. You know, I first started lifting weights when I weighed 135 pounds. I was 18 years old, freshman in college, and there was a very large man standing over me, forcing me to try to bench press my own body weight, 135. Couldn't even move it. It just went boom. The guy had to curl it up, you know. And by the time I was, 10 years later, because I was 20 at the time, 10 years later, I managed to max out at 325, which was, three plates plus. So in 10 years, I went from not being able to do a single plate once to being able to do unassisted more than 3 plates. That's not the kind of confidence you get from that's innate. That's the kind of confidence that you can develop. Sam's impressed by that. At what body weight? Actually, the funny thing is, I was this close to the weightlifter's holy grail. Basically, among people at the gym and stuff, you lift weights if you can, do your own body weight, like 10 times or whatever. Maybe not 10 times, I don't know. But the point is, that's kind of that's kind of the first milestone. Do your own body weight. But as you build up and stuff, then you start to focus on things like for me, the big thing was I really wanted to do 225. That was for me, lifting weights, that was probably the single most exciting milestone. Then eventually you get to the point where you want to do 225 10 times. And then you build up, and eventually you go for your max. What I was really trying to do is I was trying to get to double my body weight. The problem is every time I would get up, my weight would go up, a bit, because you're putting on muscle. And so when I did 325, I was 170 pounds. So actually no, I was 175 pounds. I was actually pretty much the same weight that I am now. It was just distributed a little differently. But because I remember I was within 15 pounds or so of being able to do twice my body weight, but I couldn't quite get there. Never quite managed it. But of course the thing is, for the next 10 years, you think you can do that. But, you know, can enough muscle be built with body weight only? What? You know, what does enough mean? But yeah, I mean, I probably do uh, most of my lifting. I kind of top out around my body weight. You know, so I'll do like four reps there, 6 reps there. Um, but you know, it's so good for you. It's good for your health. It's good for your strength. It's good for your confidence. The chicks dig it. You know, there's literally nothing negative about it until you get to the age where, you know, your tendons start snapping and you start tearing muscles. You know, that's where you just have to back down. You just have to, you know. Um, to be honest, that Reese Niederbear says it's a bummer to realize you'll never be as strong as you once were. Realization of the peak passing. That's never been a problem for me, really. Um, you know, for me, it was a lot harder when I lost my top gear at the age of, I think I was 32. Yeah, I can distinctly remember going, what, where did it go? Like, because it always felt like an extra gear kicking in and just going past people. And it just didn't show up one day. And then it was gone. Is it a bad idea to start at 41? Absolutely not. Starting at 41 is the best thing you can possibly do. 100%. You know? Um, yeah. Once you get to the point that your elbows start to hurt, then it's not uh, about one repetition anymore. Yeah. I mean, you just have to, you just have to, you know, learn to stop when it starts to hurt. And also, I personally believe that um, lifting weights just has a generally positive effect on your body. I mean, um, you know, I had a knee injury. Um, Actually, there's a little bit of concern about having blown out a ligament about a month ago, something like that. And um, you know, I'm completely healed. I could probably go out and play soccer right now. And so I've been a couple weeks. You know, I blew out a hamstring. It was fully recovered in a month, which is really bizarre at my age. You know, I'm convinced that that helps. Are you familiar with calisthenics? Um, like jumping jacks and burpees? The other thing, by the way, the other thing that you have to do, that you really have to do, especially if you're over the age of 35, is you should stretch your legs every single day. You don't have to do it for hours, but you need to do like 4 repetitions of hurdler stretches each leg. Um, when the doctor was checking out my knee, uh, he got kind of a funny look on his face. I said, what, something wrong? He said, your ligaments are really, really strong. He said, your knees are really stable. Um, and I'm pretty sure that that's just from all the stretching, which will keep you from walking and moving like an old man. Like, you see old guys try to run. You know, they take these little they take these weird little steps. It's because your ligaments and your tendons in your legs are tightening up. You know, it's also what screws up your posture, by the way. You know, when your muscles and tendons start tightening up, you start, you know, and so I'm actually hoping and planning to get back into, you know, start not get back into, but start doing some kind of like yoga type stretching, just to cover the other stuff other than the legs. But the legs are absolutely vital if you want to just even be able to walk normally. So Sam's excited for our next stupid question there. That's funny. Anyhow, if you're a millennial, remember, boys are not girls. Men are not women. Men need a kick in the ass. And if they don't, especially, if they don't have that fire inside, they need someone to light it for them. So, it's not about anybody disliking anybody. It's not about, superiority or contempt or anything like that. Men need motivation. Which is more beneficial, stretching before bed or first thing in the morning? I would do it first thing in the morning because you're more likely to do it. But you can do both. You can stretch twice a day. There's nothing wrong with that. So, anyhow, I've also got something to show. Just got this today. I'm very happy to get it. This is the Castellia Libraria Law Dog Files, and the library version is actually on sale for everybody. You don't even have to be a subscriber to Castellia Library. There's 4 library books on sale, including the Law Dog Files, which, by the way, the Law Dog Files is about a sheriff's deputy in Texas, but it also includes the complete African adventures, because this particular sheriff's deputy used to live or grew up in Africa. And it's one of the funnier books you'll ever encounter. And I really think that the production team just did a phenomenal job kind of working in the deputy's badge, the sheriff's badge, but into kind of a Franklin Library style abstract look. And so anyhow, check it out. It's good stuff. And actually, I'm not going to announce it yet, but we do have some major developments on the history front, and we've been talking with some very serious publishers, and I'm really we actually got some stuff worked out today, and there's still a few details to work out, but it looks like we're going to be able to do a very, very special subscription that I think some of you, not everybody, it's not going to be something for everybody, but I think it's going to be one of the most elite and special limited editions that we can possibly do. So, and no, it's not Tolkien. Just to be clear. The Law Dog is equal parts hilarious and thoughtful. Great book. Yeah, exactly. So, anyhow, I've got a few extra minutes, and we've got a bunch of people here. So, does anyone have any questions? When are you going to make more library rhetorics? Next year. When you complete the SSH, will we get a Libraria edition? I don't know. If the subscribers want it, then they'll get it. But I don't want the library to be about my books. We will do, obviously, because we've done the first 3 books in the series, we are going to do the 2 volumes of A Sea of Skulls in leather, obviously. Sunlight says, signed up for library early this year. First book was estimated to arrive in October. Last I asked. What was the first book that you subscribed for? because we're working right now on War and Peace, Swiss Family Robinson. We're behind on Arts of War because that's a much more complicated edited one to edit. But they're all coming. Pride and Prejudice might actually be ready for binding. Any more information on the new Voxiversity uploads? I haven't recorded them yet. I got the space set up, I got the lights, and now we need to get the camera. So, have you got Alex McCree working on a Selenoth Axe campaign setting? Unfortunately, no. He has not. If you want one, you should email him and request one, because I've told him that if he wants to do one, he's welcome to. Would you use AI to generate blog posts? Not for anything that was supposedly written by me. If there was a good, AI related news stream, I might consider that. What does it mean when the alpha of the group always keeps you in the loop of what's going on? It means you're probably a Bravo, as Sam correctly noted. Are you his primary enforcer? Because the Bravo, that's how you can always tell the Bravo. Any news on Rebels Run? None whatsoever. They keep pushing back the trial. And the trial has to take place before the restitution. So we're just waiting. What's your favorite leg cramp remedy? Eating a banana. If I'm getting leg cramps, it's almost always potassium related. I used to get horrible leg cramps when I was running track, and our coach would actually have bananas, right there on the track for us, so that if we were cramping up, he'd have us eat a few of them. So, in fact, when I think about track, the two things I tend to think of most are vomiting and bananas. I don't miss it that much, to be honest. That's actually, for all that my track experience was generally good, probably my biggest regret with regards to college sports is I should have played soccer. I even went to the first soccer tryout, brought my cleats, and my track coach showed up because he knew that I was thinking about it and talked me out of it. I should have just said, I know you'd like me to train. I don't care. I'm playing soccer. I'll see you, in the winter. But c'est la vie. What do you do? All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.